Hey everybody, I'm Brian Roth. I'm project lead on 9 Lives Till Midnight. We are a third-person adventure game that sort of mixes two elements that you might think are don't belong together, but they certainly do. On one side, you've got film noir elements, and on the other side, you have anthropomorphic cats. I'm joined today by some integral parts of our project. We've got Bruce, our lead programmer, Max, our lead artist, Skippy, our lead designer, and of course Tom the Code Mage Kenny running the computer for you guys. First person I'm going to pass the mic over to here is Skippy. He's going to tell you guys about our design direction.
Alright, well the basic mechanic of 9 Lives to Midnight is that instead of playing your 9 lives sequentially, you play them concurrently, meaning whenever your first life is done, your second life plays with your first life, and your third life plays with those two, and your fourth life plays with those three, all the way down the line. And we're trying to incorporate a lot of different puzzle elements to that mechanic, allowing the player to experiment with their 9 lives and try to move people around and move environmental assets around in ways that they wouldn't be able to with just one life. One of the other things we're really talking about, which I'm sure Bruce is going to get into later, is the attribute system on our NPCs, where they basically have 3 different attributes, and how those interact with each other determines their behavior. So at this point, I'm going to pass it off to Bruce, and he can talk a little bit about that.
All right, so basically we have these 3 properties. We have one called hostility, one called suspicion, and another called loyalty. These properties are going to be customized on a per NPC basis, so the designers can sort of step in and tweak these values, and depending on how they tweak the values, the responses of the NPCs to player actions are going to change. So the actions that I'm talking about here are things like pickpocketing an NPC, or threatening an NPC, or bribing an NPC, or just even talking to an NPC. So for example, if you go up to an NPC and try to bribe him and he has high loyalty, he's probably not going to be susceptible to the bribe. Something bad might happen to you, and you don't know this. It's sort of our game is sort of about learning what these properties are of the NPCs and figuring out how to exploit them. So walking through the game, you talk to NPCs and they may tell you that some other guy takes bribes basically, and then you use that information to exploit that particular NPC. I think Tom's going to give you an example of our replay mechanic. So what's going to be on screen here is basically just one of the technical challenges we've had to face thus far is figuring out how to sort of record the player input and play it back. Yeah. So this actually wasn't as big of a deal as we first thought. There's still some things that we need to do with it, such as basically we want the ability to be able to switch between lives, and that's going to sort of require us to fast forward through a life, because we don't want the player sitting there waiting for another life after pausing and resuming that life. But we're at the state with the playback system that it's pretty stable and it's usable for a lot of the puzzles that we want to do. So we're happy with that. It's not going to be visible on the screen yet. Our feedbacks. So we're recording player actions now, but it's not going to be visible exactly what's going on. So I said before that we have actions like bribe and pickpocketing, but right now we don't really have any feedback in the game for them. So it might seem like there's some hand waving going on, but trust me, we are actually recording those actions. You might see a bit of stuff happening on the console, but yeah. So what you're seeing here is the replay system in action. So Tom's going to wander around a bit with one of his lives, and then he's going to reset the state of the world, and you'll see the playback going off and repeating what he did. You'll notice a bit of a frame rate drop here, and that's because we're running in debug mode. So if Tom runs up to, say, one of those thugs in the corner, he can actually go ahead and perform an action. However, you're not going to see anything happen. But yeah, now we see the other live running up there. And right now we're focusing on sort of making tools for the designers. So we have a pretty complex environment here, and that environment's actually probably going to change a bit based on level design. But an important thing is for the NPCs to be able to navigate parts of it, especially when a designer wants them to. So, you know, how do you get to the bathroom from the front of the bar or something like that? Another thing that we're working on is sort of a system for laying down waypoints. We want the NPCs to be able to walk around there. Basically, the strategy that we're taking is to build tools for the designers. I'm going to pass it off to Skippy, who's going to talk a bit about our information gathering system and case files.
Well, because our game involves a lot of gathering of information, and that's sometimes it's really easy to forget what you've done, we're going to use a system of like a journal in most RPGs, like the Codex in Dragon Age or the journal in Mass Effect, where we're going to have each character is going to have their own case file, their own dossier that's going to contain their information, things about them, in addition to their different attributes and how they would interact with each other. This will help the player remember what they're doing, and in case they get lost, might provide hints to actions. Like, for example, we know that Knuckles is incredibly stupid, so you might be able to use that to your advantage, whereas he is incredibly loyal and incredibly hostile, so you don't want to mess with him, but you could still trick him into doing something. And the player might have been told that and have gotten up to get a sandwich and come back and been like, oh, who is that guy again? So this will give us the ability, or this will give the player the ability to replay the information that they've just gotten whenever they need to know it. And I guess now I'm going to pass it off to Max, who will talk about our art style.
Morning, everyone. This is Max. I'm here to show you some of the artwork we have done for 9 Lives to Midnight. You've already seen our basic character model for the Thug and for Sunny, our main character, and some of the awesome animations that we mocapped and put in the game, and the basic environment layout. Here you can see this is the concept art for our main character, and we applied some different Photoshop filters here to try and get a feel for some of the things we might want to do with the textures, or ways we might want to show what the replays look like. And then here we have the high-res model for Sunny, which is looking pretty awesome if I say so. And then here we have some examples with the Maya shader system. Again, just exploring what some of the shaders for the game might look like and ways we could show what the life replays would look like. And this is, you go back one. This is like maybe a sepia tone with film grain on him. Really calling back to that noir feel. And here's an idea for what we might do to try and get that noir feel with the hard, sort of almost comic book style shadows. And here in the dossiers you can see some of the wealth of concept art we've already made for the game. And hand it back to Brian.
Alright guys, so that's a look at 9 Lives Till Midnight. We're really excited about this project. We're about halfway through right now. What we think we have discovered here is an extremely emergent game. You can play it any way you want. Through playtesting, we're already seeing a lot of different strategies emerge. We're going to focus on those strategies. We're going to look for ways, more improved ways, for the players to interact with the environment and the NPCs. And we hope you guys enjoy it.